So happy to have you back to all the fans of the Unofficial Commentators. This week we're going to tackle the Hall of Fame voting process and the inductees to the 2017 MLB Hall of Fame. Football, we're going to recap last week's matchup and preview the championship round. We're going to briefly touch on things like UFC and the NBA. And we're going to introduce a new segment called Shoutouts. See if you were mentioned in our shoutouts this week on the Unofficial Commentators. The podcast begins now. That's right, the Unofficial Commentators are back again. Another episode and another chance to tell you guys to follow us on YouTube, the Unofficial Commentators. Us on Podomatic, also the Unofficial Commentators. On social media, we're on Facebook, Unofficial Commentators. We are on Instagram, Unofficial Commentators. And finally, we're on Twitter, UC_podcast. And you can follow all our daily, weekly exploits, add content. I'm very, very happy at the way that after our most recent episode, I've had more people coming and contributing, giving us opinions, just basically following up on the topics. And our followers have also gone up as well, so it looks like people are finally sharing. This is becoming more than just Fight Club, you know, where the old adage is don't talk about Fight Club, and then more and more people show up. Maybe I should tell people not to follow us. Anyway, I have my co-host Packy waiting at the wings.
How you doing, Jay? Big shout out to our huge fan base. I'm glad that we have this episode, and like you said, we got this on the fly, man. Breaking news, Hall of Fame ballots. And the best I can do is wear my Mets hat since we're going to talk a little bit of baseball. We were well overdue on baseball. I mean, we're in off season. There's not much to talk about. So I know there's a big part of our fan base that was waiting for some baseball to be talked about, and the time is here.
All right. Well, there's another guest host that I want to mention today. It's right here. Das Boot, ladies and gentlemen. Das Boot will be joining us.
This?
Das Boot is going to be joining us all show long, and I'm gonna put it here where we can see it. All show long, we'll have Das Boot in studio. All right, so Packy.
All right, wait. If you're gonna show off your boot, I'm gonna show off my fantasy football trophy. This is not from our League of Haters that we normally comment about, but it is a league that I have with the guys from the radio station here in the Dominican Republic. I won that fantasy league. I got this nice little trophy. It's pretty nice. I like it. So, yeah, I got that.
League of Haters, guys, you're a very tight-knit group. We've been doing this league for some time. It's time we stepped our game up. Next year, we have to have a trophy, a championship belt. I don't know. Let's raise the stakes. Dude, you mentioned the radio station, and I think they covered the Crows. And how did it go with the toy drive?
Oh, well, that's actually good you mentioned that. On Sunday, we went to an orphanage. We went and gave away some toys to the kids. We played some football with them. They obviously here in the Dominican Republic, it's not a very popular sport, so we taught them a little bit of basic stuff. We played some basketball with them. The girls were getting paint on their face. You know, we gave them a little bit of a motivational speech. It was a great activity. I personally loved it. I loved the reaction from our guys. I loved how into it they were, man. And it was a lot more fulfilling than I thought it would be. I have to honestly say it was something that I had never done before. This social community work, I've never done it before. It was great. And I'm actually very eager to do it again. I do not regret it one bit. I had a great time with the kids. The kids were super sweet, man. They were super awesome. The coordinators in the orphanage, they were also very awesome. It was an overall very, very great experience, man. I really just hope more people would do this. I'm not even joking. I mean, I know we joke a lot here in this show. We're very, we're very cool about all the topics, but in all seriousness, people should really think about giving back. It feels great, and it's something that the less needy really do appreciate.
All right, man. Sometimes the most important thing is to just take that first step, and I'm glad that the league and the teams are doing things in positive directions. Very, very good. All right, so with the housekeeping out of the way, you think it's time to start talking about this Hall of Fame stuff? Sometimes we have a week's full of content that we have prepared and we're ready to talk about, and then we come to realize that we record this show on Wednesdays and news just happens to break. Like while I'm on my way home, with a clear idea of what it is I want to talk about, all of a sudden we get hit with the news that the Hall of Fame inductees for 2017 were announced. And what better place to start today than with the Hall of Fame class of 2017. Packy, take it away.
Let's go, man. Hall of Fame ballots are in, the official ones.
All right. So 3 people have been named into the 2017 Baseball Hall of Fame. Jeff Bagwell, Tim Raines, and Ivan Rodriguez all selected. 3 very different storylines here. Jeff Bagwell, a player that played for 15 years in the MLB, and all of them with the same team, the Houston Astros. Just about every year that he played there, they were pretty much a respectable team. I'm not going to say good or great, but respectable. Tim Raines made his way around. I believe he's a 3-time World Series champion, 7-time All-Star. And Ivan Rodriguez, man, also a champion. Everybody knows Pudge for a very, very long time. He was known as the best catcher in baseball. I mean, basically all of the 90s and some of the 2000s. The time that I was still interested in baseball, he was the prototypical catcher. So congratulations to all of these people. I have a lot of questions about how the heck all of this voting works. Where do we even start, man? Do you have anything to say about these players?
Well, yeah, first of all, they weren't the only ones. Bud Selig also got voted in the winter meetings as an executive. So remember, executives also do go to the Hall of Fame.
No one cares.
And Bud Selig got, yeah, but it's actually a pretty big deal because this Bud Selig voting opens up a lot of things in the Hall of Fame, one of them being the Ivan Rodriguez vote in, and I'll get to that now why. I was reading on some stuff from some writers because of the Hall of Fame voting is a total mess, all right? You asked about the voting. To me, it's a total mess. It's kind of getting better now. I mean, the first reason we got to talk about this being a mess is the fact that a lot of these writers send in empty ballots. To me, that's...
What the hell is up with that? I saw that. Why would you... Why would you have the opportunity to vote and put in an empty ballot? Not that many this year, by the way. It looks like it was only 2.
Why are you even allowed to submit an empty ballot? I mean, somebody has to be like, bro, if you're not going to vote, then we'll just take you off the committee. I mean, God damn it. Let's be serious here. But overall, I mean, how does voting work before we get to that?
All right, go ahead.
Players need to get 332 votes, which is about 75% of the voting to get into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Players are eligible to the Hall of Fame if they have 10 years, at least 10 years of a baseball career, and they're available for voting 5 years after they retire. Of course, all players go through a certain screening beforehand, because obviously if you just had a 10-year mediocre career of being on the bench, you're not even going to be considered. So there has to be some previous screening before you're even put on the ballot. After 10 years on the ballot, you get taken out if you didn't make the Hall of Fame, which is kind of what happened to Tim Raines now. He was on his last year. And if you get less than 5% on any of the years, you're automatically off the ballot, which is what happened to Jorge Posada, which wasn't, I mean, I didn't think he was a Hall of Famer, but getting discarded away in his, like this in his first year available in the ballot, he only got like 3%. I think that's pretty disrespectful. The Yankees just retired his number 20. I mean, the guy was pretty good. He had about 4 rings, if I'm not mistaken. And he was a starting catcher and probably one of the best teams of the 90s. Well, obviously the best team of the 90s and one of the most storied franchises in baseball. He was a key part of that. So that's one of the reasons why voting clearly is not as good as it should be.
Well, it's not so much voting. I guess that's kind of the system, right? The how they get kicked out of there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not fair. I mean, these guys, these voters, may just take it personal sometimes. I mean, Roberto Alomar got pushed a year because he spit on a ref. That's kind of personal. And now this whole steroid performance-enhancing drug thingy here that these reporters, these writers have when voting, it's like, we're not going to vote for you if we think you did performance-enhancing drugs, but it's kind of a hypocritical statement. It's like I said, it's very personal because
it saved baseball.
Well, yeah,
I mean, all of those people that are being accused of taking steroids, those are the people that I watched, and I don't consider them any less great for taking steroids. I mean, whatever steroids does, if it makes you stronger or whatever the situation is, I mean, I can be strong as hell and I still don't have like the hand-eye coordination to hit a home run.
I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, first of all, it wasn't a banned substance back then in the 90s. We do know mostly everybody used it, right? I mean, a vast majority of players. And although it's not proven, I can't give a specific statement for anybody. I'm almost positive that every professional athlete in every sport has taken some type of enhancement drug at some point. I mean, the just the demand that professional sports have on a human body are insane, and don't even get me started on the competition. So it's kind of very hypocritical. Now you got Bud Selig coming in, who was the commissioner during the whole steroid era, which is why I'm telling you that this opens up a lot of doors. And now you have Pudge Rodriguez coming in. And not just that. Pudge Rodriguez obviously hasn't been proved to have steroids, but the best baseball player, I mean, I can't say this enough. The best baseball player of all time, Barry Bonds, is not a Hall of Famer because of some steroid use. I mean, let's be real. Regardless of the steroid use, Barry Bonds is the best player of all time. Roger Clemens is a 7-time Cy Young winner, Jay. 7 times. Think about how much that is.
They don't take away any of his Cy Youngs, but they won't let him in the Hall of Fame.
People don't go. I mean, God damn it. Jeff Bagwell is in the Hall of Fame. He has 4 All-Star games. Roger Clemens has 7 Cy Youngs. I mean, are you seeing the difference here? Seriously?
I mean, you guys almost tore my head off when I said that a lot of people get into Baseball Hall of Fame just based on collective stats. You play long enough and you're bound to do something good. I mean, if you're good enough to always be on the field, you're going to get your chances at bat, and all you do is just keep collecting hits. Before you know it, you have 3,000 hits, and there's no way they keep you at the Hall of Fame unless you're Pete Rose.
Not just that, the voting is so broken that these people have this stigma about not voting for performance-enhancing drugs. Yet, to today, there are still writers that are voting for either Bonds and Clemens and not the other. Why would you vote for Bonds and not vote for Roger Clemens? Why would you vote for Roger Clemens and not vote for Bonds? There has been an improvement in the last couple of years. This year, only 7 writers did that stupidity. I'm going to call it as it is, a stupidity. Which is the least amount since both of these guys became eligible in the Hall of Fame ballot in 2013. I was looking up some research on this, and this is where I go why voting is kind of ridiculous sometimes, and why it gets personal. Some of the writers that vote here, Barry Rosner from the Daily Herald, he previously had voted for Barry Bonds, but not Roger Clemens, because he thought Bonds was a Hall of Famer before the use of steroids. But he wasn't sure on when Clemens started using. You can clearly see when Bonds did the transition. You can't see it for Clemens, so he won't vote for Clemens, but he will vote for Bonds. Now he's one of the writers that's actually voting for both, because since the induction of Bud Selig, it kind of nullifies the performance-enhancing drug issue in the voting. I have another writer.
What you're saying is, Packy, that it's not objective, like it's totally subjective. It's kind of like, hey, you need to submit your votes today, and it's just kind of how you feel, and then you just make up a reason why you change your mind.
Exactly. I mean, I wrote an article about this a couple of years ago when Pedro Martinez was inducted into the Hall of Fame, which, by the way, was the same year that Craig Biggio was inducted in the Hall of Fame. And boy, there was a lot of support from the Houston fans. I expect that to happen again for Jeff Bagwell. So I was surprised at the amount of fans that were up there in New York. It was impressive. But getting back to topic, I have John Heyman from FanRags voted for Bonds and not Clemens because he says Bonds was a clear Hall of Famer, but only used steroids to keep himself in the spotlight. But Clemens used it to rejuvenate his aging career. Again, not objective, bro. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. And then finally, I have an Oakland A's beat writer, John Hickey. He didn't vote for Clemens because Clemens once threw a piece of a broken bat at Mike Piazza's direction. But I'm okay voting for Barry Bonds, but not for Roger Clemens for that reason, not specifically steroids. So it's kind of like, I don't know, they should really revise this voting. I mean, it's a little bit ridiculous to me, and we haven't even gotten into the players that actually got voted into Hall of Fame, which I have my 2 cents on that too.
Well, it seems like what you're telling me, and you're using the word voting, it's not necessarily the voting. They vote how they vote. It's kind of the system that they use for voting. So there's not an established criteria of what is considered a Hall of Famer. And for what it's worth, this is a different sport, but let me just hear me out on this one. I heard LaDainian Tomlinson doing an interview, and they asked him how he feels about being considered to go into the Hall of Fame. And he says, well, when I started playing football, I started playing, to be the best at my position, hoping to win a championship. And he says, this is why I think most young kids get into the sport. He didn't mention, when I started playing, my hope was to someday be in the Hall of Fame. I don't think a lot of people get into the game with the expectation of someday being in the Hall of Fame. You want to be the best at your position for as long as you play. You want to get some championships because everybody knows that a championship equals a ring, and a ring is something that you can put up in any restaurant, laundromat, or anything that you decide to own later on when you're done with baseball and decide to branch out into other careers. I don't know that it's going to make or break, any of these players. Several interesting things that you said there. I don't understand how the voting or the system works, and I'm glad you pointed out a few of these things. You said that if they get less than 5% of the vote in any of the years, that includes the first year too? I mean, that's
gone.
That's sort of ridiculous. See, that I don't agree with, because it looks like, by seeing some of the people that are on the ballot that can possibly be voted in, it looks like they fell behind on some of the voting. So even when next year's crop of available players comes around, a player like Trevor Hoffman was 1% off the vote to make it to the Hall of Fame. So just because, honorable mention or whatever you want to call it, he'll probably get in. He's going to get votes. And that means that someone, possibly someone good, won't get that 5%, and then they'll get kicked off in the first year. Are they ever eligible to come back after they get kicked off, or that's it?
No, it's actually funny that you mention it. Yes, they are. Not exactly back in the ballot, but they can get voted directly into the Hall of Fame by the Veterans Committee, the Baseball Hall of Fame Veterans Committee. They can actually go and oversee the ballot, and they can vote you in. These are the guys that actually even step in special occasions. Like, for example, when Roberto Clemente, when he passed away, he hadn't done his 10-year career yet, I believe. And he obviously wasn't 5 years past his retirement, because he never really retired. He passed away. They put him into the Hall of Fame right away. So they can override anything and go into special occasions. So they can put Jorge Posada in, for example. But that's a Veterans Committee. It's not made of writers. It's made of executives and some Hall of Fame inductees, a group of people. That actually even makes a little bit more sense than these writers voting, man.
Yeah, the whole thing about giving writers the power to vote for anything, writers can be very petty, like you just said. Some dude isn't voting in Roger Clemens because he threw a bat one time. So-and-so doesn't like a player because he never gave him an interview, so I just won't vote for him. There's a team obligation to give a certain media access, but there's not an obligation for players. If they don't want to talk to you, then live with it. I mean, players can be petty too. If you ever did me wrong, why would I ever give you a scoop?
It's ridiculous. I mean, you have a beat writer for the Oakland A's that has a vote. No disrespect to the Oakland A's, no disrespect to the position of a beat writer, but for voting a player to the Hall of Fame, how can you say a beat writer is more qualified than a player or an executive that's already in the Hall of Fame, that has been around the game inside and out since the beginning? You know what I mean? So, I don't know. It's just something. And look, getting back to the topic of the system, if it's objective or subjective. You want to see how subjective this is?
I mean, it's clearly not. But I don't know if there's much more for us to talk about there, but make your points on the players that got in.
Yeah, and I'm going to start with Pudge Rodriguez. It's going to take me – I'm going to do a perfect transition here.
Go ahead.
Ivan Rodriguez, Pudge Rodriguez, he gets voted in his first year in the ballot.
Okay.
If you watch the guy play, if you see his numbers, he's a clear Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. Probably one of the best defensive catchers, if not the best of all time. Guy was clearly amazing. I mean, you saw him playing, and there was no question he was going to be a Hall of Famer. He deserves to be a Hall of Famer.
I don't even know what you mean by that, because as we said, it just kind of comes down to what a reporter's feeling at the time. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'm getting into that.
Go ahead.
But Jose Canseco, who has been pretty accurate with his accusations regarding steroid use on other players, said that he actually helped Ivan Rodriguez also with steroids. On top of that, after testing started in 2005, Ivan Rodriguez lost 22 pounds. He said it was to improve his defense, but kind of mysterious. So, there's no concrete evidence, but there was some talk about it. And he gets voted in the first time. Now you have Mike Piazza, the best, stats are there, the best offensive catcher of all time. He had to wait 4 years before he got inducted because of some false allegations that were never proven or any hard facts regarding steroid use. So again, it's a matter of opinion. So what applies for Mike Piazza doesn't apply for Pudge Rodriguez? How does that make any sense?
Apparently not.
But, like I said, Ivan Rodriguez has – I mean, I don't even have to get into the stats with this guy. Do I really have to get into the awards? If anybody saw him playing, the guy was amazing. He was lights out. He was excellent. So clearly, he deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. By the way, it was very touching when he received the phone call. I saw the video for the Hall of Fame. And it reminded me of what you just mentioned earlier about it's not a guy's prime – it's not their prime goal to get into the Hall of Fame. But I think once you're nearing the end of your career and you already have a whole story behind your career, I think you start thinking about it as a possibility. So, I mean, you can't tell me David Ortiz is not thinking about the Hall of Fame. Of course, Vladimir Guerrero was thinking about the Hall of Fame when he retired, and so did these guys. It's pretty much the answer. It's all your sacrifices that you've done your entire life paying off.
I agree with you to a certain extent. I mean, when it comes down to the last years of your career and people start mentioning it and you figure, okay, well, I played this long, I didn't have a significant injury, I never got in any real trouble, so why not? Especially when you're a player, for whatever of the two reasons, whether you already accomplished everything like David Ortiz, where he has championships already and it's just like, one more milestone, or you never got the championship rings and then you just figure, well, it wasn't always my fault. Like I could only do so much. I only get 4 chances to bat and they'll walk me 3 times because they're afraid of what I'm going to do. So, like a Barry Bonds, for example, you're thinking like, there's not much else left for me. This is, my ultimate legacy, to go down with a bust in the Hall of Fame. Talk to me about the 2 other guys that got in briefly so we can talk about some snubs and then we can move on to something else.
Yeah, Jeff Bagwell. Jeff Bagwell didn't have a lot of overall individual awards, but this guy's career was amazing. I mean, Jeff Bagwell was a model of consistency, and he was a different mold of a first baseman. Only first baseman with a 30 home runs, 30 stolen bases more than once. Only first baseman with 400 home runs, 200 stolen bases. And only player to achieve 6 straight years with 30 home runs, 100 RBIs, 100 runs, and 100 walks. Impressive career overall. I think Jeff Bagwell is well-deserved of the Hall of Fame ballot. Kudos to him, and congratulations to him and his family. Now, getting to Tim Raines, who was on his 10th year, his last year of the Hall of Fame ballot. I understand. To me, I feel like they put him in the Hall of Fame because it was his last year, and his name has been, just wandering around the ballot for so long. It's improved every year, but, I mean, he got in the Hall of Fame with an 86%. That's ridiculous. I don't even think Tim Raines is supposed to be in the Hall of Fame in the first place. I mean, the guy was a great baseball player. I honestly did not see his prime because I was not alive during his prime, which was in the early 80s. Yeah, I was born in 87, so. But, I mean, I'm looking over the guy's career. He was clearly one of the best at his at being a leadoff batter. But if you look overall, I mean, is he really a Hall of Famer? Tim Raines, a leadoff hitter his entire career, batted under 300. On base percentage, career-wise, 385. That's 119th overall. 119th overall. He did not get to 3,000 hits. I mean, a leadoff hitter didn't get to 3,000 hits. It's kind of like, I don't know, man. It's like being a home run hitter and not getting to 500. It's a milestone that you kind of got to reach. And on top of that, his biggest accomplishment is his stolen bases. He's 5th all time, which is not bad. It's great. But, I mean, is this guy really a Hall of Famer? I mean, is this guy really a guy that changed the game? Is he really a guy that marked the difference? I mean, his best years were 6 straight years in Montreal in the early 80s after I looked it up. He led the league in stolen bases. He went to All-Star games. I mean, he went to 7 All-Star games his entire career. 6 of them were in that stretch. So, I don't know. I'm not convinced, man. And what hurts me the most is that Vladimir Guerrero could have gotten in or Trevor Hoffman could have gotten in, but they went with him to not take him off the ballot.
Okay. I see the points you're making, but some of the points in favor are very compelling. 100 triples, 150 home runs, that's no big deal. But 600 stolen bases, dude. You know, more than actually. This one is 70 steals. 70 steals or more stolen bases in 6 consecutive seasons. Dude, that's a lot of steals. Like, I don't know what was going on back then, but who steals 70 bases now? I mean, is it Billy Hamilton, the fastest dude now, and he gets what, like 40 plus, scratching 50 maybe? 70 steals is amazing.
Yeah, nobody does it. Baseball has changed a lot. I mean, the players have changed a lot. It's not the same. But regardless, I mean, if you look at overall, I mean, Hall of Famer, Jay, I mean, I'm not taking credit away from the guy. The guy was awesome. He was great. But, I mean, let's look at the stigma that MLB has posted for the Hall of Fame. You got people like Roger Clemens, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds, now Vladimir Guerrero, Trevor Hoffman still looking out. Tim Raines? Really? Really? I don't know. No hate against Tim Raines. I just think there's more deserving people. I'm sorry.
I think I understand what you're saying. So, for 10 years, he wasn't good enough to make it in. Like, there were years that
right?
I think only one person got into a Hall of Fame one year. I forget the year it was exactly.
There was a year that nobody made it.
Right. So he was there. He was amongst the possible candidates there. He had all the same stats because obviously he stopped playing a long time ago. And you vote nobody in? No one. And then, you know, in a year where, like you said, you know, Vladimir Guerrero was only a few percentage points away. Trevor Hoffman was exactly 1 percentage point away from getting into the Hall of Fame. For Hoffman, it would have been his second year, Vladimir on his first year. You put in Tim Raines, Connor, it feels like the honorable mention. Like, you know, just kind of put him in there because what the heck else are we going to do with him? Are we going to keep doing this to him? And it's kind of like I said. Yeah, it's like I said. They're catching up. Like, I don't see how any of these like percentages get any lower. At some point, they're going to get higher. So obviously, these 3 people are not going to be in the ballot anymore. So Bagwell, Raines, and Rodriguez, and then you're going to have new people coming up to the ballot. And then, you know, you're going to have to catch up on people that are behind. Like Edgar Martinez is now at 58.6%. That was this year, considering that a lot of votes went to other players. He's been on the ballot for 8 years. Next year is going to be 9. Sammy Sosa, Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds, and Roger Clemens, they're at 5 years, so they still got some time. I'm thinking they're just going to, like, punish him and then put him in last minute. And the year that they do put him in, like, if they all go in the same year on their 10th year, kind of like a Tim Raines, then that's going to hurt the crop of, you know, people that come in that year, whoever those people have been that have been retired for 5 years at that moment. It's a little silly, to be honest with you. There's an interesting name here, Lee Smith. I have no idea when Lee Smith played baseball. He's been on the ballot for 15 years. How does that happen?
Well, because the changes were made, the changes to being 10 years were made. I don't remember the specific year, to be honest. But if you were already on the ballot before the change to 10, it was 15. So probably Lee Smith is going to disappear after this year. To be honest, I'm not sure who he is either. If he's been there in the ballot for 15 years, me and has been retired for 20 years ago. We were very young. And 20 years ago, meaning he was old, so I'm not sure who he is. But you got guys like Manny Ramirez, Kurt Schilling, Mike Mussina, Gary Sheffield. To me, all these guys are better baseball players and better careers than Tim Raines. Regardless, Tim Raines is in. But
those are very good players that I actually saw play, and as far as I can remember, they may have had some character issues, but none of them any like performance-enhancing stuff. I think Manny one time had like I don't know if it was like a fertility drug thing that kind of looked, or steroids, or they used it to I don't understand what the point of that thing was. But these are players that, like you say, man, they're obviously, or at least to my eyes, me that was able to be alive and of conscious mind to see them at that time, these are people that I was able to see, and I think they're better. Manny, by the way, he's his first year there, so he has time. They'll catch up to him. Fred McGriff is on his 9th year. Next year will be his last. You think he makes it in?
Fred McGriff?
Right.
No, I don't think so. He's way too far behind. But, the positive thing for all these supposedly quote-unquote steroid users, because I'm not, or better said, quote-unquote cheaters, because I don't consider them cheaters if they did it in an era where everybody did it. Even the ones that were bad baseball players did steroids, even the sucky ones. But now that Ivan Rodriguez is in, Bud Selig is in, and Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds have gone over 50% for the first time ever in their 5-year in the ballots, which will probably go up to 60 next year, and so on, I expect to see these quote-unquote steroid users in the Hall of Fame eventually. There's no way Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens get to the year 10 without getting in. And once they get in, it's going to open the door for Manny. It's going to open the door for maybe Larry Walker, and so on and so on. And whoever comes in that might be tainted with steroid use. Now, if you have
15 years from now, A-Rod.
Yeah, and A-Rod, you never know. I mean, that's a good, that's very good that you mentioned that, because besides the fact, all the things that has happened with A-Rod, all the things that have been said, all the drama and the conferences and I was young and naive and I made a mistake. A-Rod is probably one of the best all-time players in the game. Before, after steroid use, minor leagues, Dominican Winter League, wherever you want to see it, A-Rod is an all-timer. He should be in the Hall of Fame eventually. That's going to be a great topic of discussion when his time comes. And he's probably not going to be a first ballot. I'm okay with that. If you're a steroid user, don't go in the first ballot. Punishment would be, suffer a couple of years, but you got to get in eventually.
I don't agree with that. I see where you're going, but that is the stupidest thing in the world. Steroids should not affect your ranking in the Hall of Fame. You get punished. Wait. You get punished during your playing career. They give you the 50 games, 100 games, whatever it is, until you're finally forced to retire. And that's what the rules are. Nothing says, you get banned 50 games for steroids, you can't make it to the Hall of Fame. It's dumb. I don't agree with that.
I was gonna say that if you did it after the rule change and you were suspended, you could have a, like that kind of type of punishment added into it. But you're right. I think you're right. I'm not. It was a dumb comment. But regarding Alex Rodriguez, though, they made an example with him, so they got to stick to the example. I mean, after all the stuff that they went through, if you put him in the first ballot, it's kind of like everything we just did. We were just fucking around with you, A-Rod. It's a troll. But you're going into the Hall of Fame first ballot. So A-Rod's case is kind of particular. They're going to have to make him suffer a bit because they have already made him suffer a lot. So if you made an example with him, you got to keep it going, right?
So Sammy Sosa is the cutoff point this year. 8.6% of the voting went to Sammy, so he gets to participate another year in the ballot. Jorge Posada was the highest vote getter, to not be able to return unless, as you mentioned, he gets voted back by the committee. Of the names that are here, which of them do you think deserve Hall of Fame consideration? I'm not going to mention everyone, but Maglio Ordóñez, Edgar Renteria, Jason Varitek, Orlando Cabrera, Derek Lee, maybe Carlos Guillén. Not a lot of.
Luckily now we're old enough to know most of the guys on the ballot, because 10 years ago the guys on the ballot, on the back end of the ballot, there were guys that played when we weren't watching the game. But out of these, I can only see Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds.
No, they're still on the ballot. I mean, some of the people that are going to be off the ballot next year because they didn't get enough votes that you think should have at least been in consideration. Outside of Posada.
I think the only one is Posada, and it's interesting to see what happens with Sammy. He's at 8%. If he dips, I think that's disrespectful. I mean, my God, Sammy Sosa.
All right, so on that note, we're going to end it. Let's just congratulate the people that got in and leave some of this conversation for next year when we discuss who gets in and, again, who gets snubbed. Jeff Bagwell, Tim Raines, Ivan Rodriguez, congratulations. Welcome to the Hall of Fame, as well as former Commissioner Bud Selig. All right. Packy, let's kind of decompress before we get into our next topic. We're going to be talking some football, but before we do that, I just want to tell everybody to follow us on all of our platforms, YouTube, Unofficial Commentators, Podomatic, Unofficial Commentators. It's like Packy said last week, man. We're not asking you to pay a whole bunch of money. I'm not asking you to put my kid through college. Just go in there and click it, so I don't have to bother you and send you a link for you to follow. It'll tell you automatically when we post something, and then you just get it, right?
Jesus, I have people that tell me, dude, I listen to your show all the time. Then follow the damn channel, man. Subscribe to the damn channel.
I know too many people to have that few subscribers. I'm not going to say the number, but we have a few subscribers compared to the amount of people that either talk about the show, know me personally, know me through social media, and know Packy as well, for that matter. And I know that I have other people that are sharing it. Shout out to Cousin Juan. I know Joel Brito retweets our stuff all the time. He's one of the first people that likes everything we post. Paolo, we mentioned last week. And, they have followers too. So it's surprising to me that we don't have more subscribers, more people that don't want to be bothered with the mentions and the stuff. So again, Unofficial Commentators at YouTube, Unofficial Commentators, Podomatic, at Unofficial Commentators for Instagram, Unofficial Commentators, the Facebook page, and at UC_podcast for Twitter. Also the email. I know that you can contact us at any time. You can speak to us live. You can talk to us on the WhatsApp. All of those things, but let's make this email account, work, man. Let me know that people are interested. I want to hear the comments that you give Packy. I don't want him to have to forward them to us. So, unofficialcommentators@gmail.com. Let us know how we're doing, what you like, what you don't like, what you'd like us to talk about, what would you like us to make unofficial, and so on and so forth. All right, Packy, did you watch any football this weekend?
What a question. Of course I watched football, man. What are you talking about? Of course I watch football. It's the freaking playoffs, man.
Playoffs?
Playoffs? That's right. Of course. Of course I watch football. And by the way, first I have to mention my awesomeness. I'm 8 for 8 in my playoff predictions so far. 9 for 9 if you include the FBS Championship Bowl and NCAA. So I will be making my predictions for this week shortly.
At 3:05 p.m. on Fox, the Green Bay Packers will be playing at the Atlanta Falcons. And how do you want to approach this?
All right, it's very simple, man. I mean, last week I was right in all my predictions. I'm going to give mine right off the bat. Surprise, surprise, I'm going with the Green Bay Packers for this game, first and foremost. A lot of people are saying, no, but the Falcons' offense, it's amazing. If Seattle Seahawks couldn't shut them down, Packers can't shut them down either. That makes sense. I mean, the Packers' secondary has been pretty bad, and they're pretty banged up as well. Julio Jones is probably gonna score at least twice, maybe 3 times. Who knows? Matt Ryan, who is right now the favorite for the MVP award. Surprise, surprise. He's probably going to ball out. Let's see. I mean, I think this is his first big scenario. I expect him to ball out. Devontae Freeman, he might be the quietest one of all because Green Bay has a pretty solid front, but he might have a good game. But how about Aaron Rodgers? This guy's playing the best football of his career. I mean, obviously, once again, my disclaimer, it is a prediction. I can be wrong. But the way that I see this, if the Falcons score 40, Aaron Rodgers is going to score 41. If the Falcons score 45, Rodgers is going to score 46. This guy is unstoppable. The throws that this guy is making are amazing. The way this guy is playing and extending plays is amazing. I mean, if the Giants' pass rush was toyed around with by the Green Bay Packers offensive line, if the solid Dallas Cowboys defense, bend but not break, broke pretty bad. I expect the Falcons' defense has a really good pass rush with Vic Beasley, but the way Aaron Rodgers is moving around, I mean, can you really pass rush the guy? I mean, you got to stay in front of him. You can't get behind him because he's just going to run around, find somebody open. I know his receivers are banged up, but this is all about Aaron Rodgers. I have this strong feeling in the playoffs to always go not only with the best quarterback, but the quarterback that's playing the best, that has the best momentum at the time. Matt Ryan is doing a great job, but Aaron Rodgers is playing at an all-time level. I cannot go against Aaron Rodgers the way he's playing at this moment. So I'm going to go with the Packers on this one. He did an excellent job against the Cowboys. I expect him to do again the same versus the Falcons.
I agree with every single thing you said, Packy, except for one thing, and that's that I think that the Atlanta Falcons actually get a chance to pull this off. I believe at this stage, Aaron Rodgers has won 8 games in a row. I mean, how unprecedented would it be to win 9? He's getting back Jordy Nelson potentially.
Wait.
Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you. Now that you mentioned that win streak, I saw on Twitter a guy that started a $300 bet direct on the Green Bay Packers on their first game of that winning streak, and he's kept writing it, and he's up to $73,000 already.
Yep, I saw that
and
too.
He's going to write it again this weekend.
I mean, there's only one way that ends, and that's when he loses it all. But, hey, man, more power to him. Again, I was saying, the Atlanta Falcons are prime, man. They're playing at home. The fear was, and again, shout out to Cousin Juan, that the Falcons kind of freeze in the chilly weather. Well, they won't have to play in chilly weather this year. They're going to have the chance to play in the dome. I think that ultimately Atlanta has too many weapons, and I'm sorry, I got a little bit distracted, but the point I was trying to make is that the Green Bay Packers potentially get back Jordy Nelson. Now, is 70% of Jordy Nelson better than not having him at all? Like trying to throw to a guy who's not 100%, who may not be able to stretch because he has, pain in his ribs and possibly problems with his breathing due to a collapsed lung, as was reported. Is that better? Like, does that even distract the defense? I could probably put like my second or even third cornerback on him and, let him try to win jump balls and such. In terms of the receivers for Aaron Rodgers, they didn't look great against Dallas. I mean, it was a surprise receiver, Jared Cook, who did most of the receiving in that game. He caught all of the really important balls. Adams was pretty quiet. Randall Cobb had an important catch, at least that I remember seeing, but he didn't have anything of note. They still have no running game, and they're relying totally on Aaron Rodgers, and I see how that could work against the New York Giants, who lost Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie early in the game. I see how that works against Dallas, who traditionally have not had a great defense, and they definitely don't have any kind of pass rush. Like, it didn't seem to me like Rodgers was in trouble for most of the game. But Atlanta is for real. Weapons on offense, a really good defense that was able to shut down Russell Wilson, who we think very highly of, both because of his ability to throw on the run and just to keep plays alive with his legs. It's unprecedented, man. I mean, for as much as I would love to see a Rodgers-Brady Super Bowl, Atlanta at this stage, playing that well and at home may be the toughest challenge this year so far for Aaron Rodgers. Let me not forget, they played this year on October 30th, and Atlanta actually beat Aaron Rodgers. See, the way that you said that if Atlanta scores 44, the Packers, or rather Aaron Rodgers, is going to go score 45, well, in that game, Atlanta scored 33, and the Packers scored 32. So, I'm not sure if I'm calling this controversy, but at least in the first matchup, we disagree. I'm thinking Atlanta wins this one.
I mean, Vegas is giving this game a 60-point line, bro. That means this game is going to be fireworks off the get-go. There's no way anybody's playing the under on that game. Has to go over. It will be a lot of points. Atlanta clearly has no problem scoring. I think Rodgers is going to score. And you said the key reason why I'm going to go with the Packers. Even though the receivers weren't that good, they made plays in key moments. And that's what it's all about in the playoffs. I'm going against the grain.
All right. So next matchup starts at 6:40 on CBS. It's going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers playing in Foxborough against the New England Patriots. So the Steelers got to this game by beating the Kansas City Chiefs. Some things of note we're going to talk about probably in a few minutes. The New England Patriots utterly dominated, even in a game where their key player Tom Brady didn't do great. They dominated the the Texans. My God, I forgot the names. I almost called them everything else but the Texans. All right, so the New England Patriots beat the Houston Texans. Yeah, I think I'm low on vitamins. Tell me how this game is going to go down, Ben.
Yeah, you got to fill up your boot, man. Obviously, that Texan-Patriot game was a gimme. Everybody knew Houston had no chance whatsoever of winning that game. They did put up a great effort on defense versus Brady. They made him struggle here and there. Brady's completion percentage was a little low, was lower than usual, very much lower than usual. But at the end of the day, the Patriots won. And look at that. Everybody kept talking about, for Kansas City, everybody kept mentioning this Tyreek Hill guy. He can score on the ground. He can score on the air. He can score on special teams. How come nobody's talking about Dion Lewis for the Patriots? Dion Lewis, man, he scored on the ground, on the air, and through special teams. This guy was pretty much the MVP of that game. It was obvious the Patriots were going to win that game. But on the Steelers side, this is where I really want to get to. First of all, I got to say publicly here on this awesome podcast, how much of a bonehead is Antonio Brown? The guy live broadcasted his coach's speech, obviously without his consent, in the locker room after the game.
So?
I mean, seriously, you have to be mentally challenged to do this sort of stuff. As a coach, what you talk in the locker room, what you talk to your team after or before the game is very private. If you wanted everybody to hear it, you would say it on speakers. I mean, you say it, especially in pro football, you say it away from the media. I mean, you saw Mike Tomlin cursing, and as a matter of fact, saying some things that might not be appropriate for the normal audience. Although I agree with everything he said. Right? But Antonio Brown, I mean, could you imagine Mike Tomlin would have said something like, next week we're going to run the ball on the Patriots until, can you imagine he would have said, our game plan this week is going to be this and that. Could you imagine? And that's what we're going to work on this week. I mean, he would be helping Spygate without the spy. Antonio Brown giving away.
There is no possible way that he's going to tell you that after having won a game on the last possession, essentially, that he's already planned what they're going to do for the Patriots. Man, forget about that. This is the dumbest controversy ever.
You don't know.
Listen,
you don't know what he could have said.
These are the first few months of Facebook Live, and this is just a sign of things to come. You're getting younger players that are involved in the media. For what I know, the NFL is actually encouraging, or the teams rather, are encouraging players to be more social, to attract more of a crowd by having a personality. Although they have rules to prevent you from having personality when you score touchdowns, but that's neither here nor there. Now, however, they encourage for you to basically reach out and expand your fan base. This is the dumbest possible controversy I could ever think of.
Come on.
Who gives
There's
a
no way you
hell?
can justify. You can't justify that. It's private conversation between the team. It's private.
Who said it was private conversation? Everybody there is celebrating. This wasn't like you're sitting down in prayer.
The media's not there.
Give me a
Teams
crap
get 15
about the
minutes
media.
after the game.
Right.
Teams get 15 minutes after the game.
This is not a team account. This is not a media account. This is Antonio Brown, who's a player. And if Antonio Brown deems it fit that whatever you're telling him as a player, he can go ahead and tell whoever follows him, amen to that.
How about the fact that you can clearly tell the way that Antonio Brown is smiling and dancing around the camera? He's not even paying attention to what his coach is saying.
Who cares?
How disrespectful is that? That's not disrespectful either.
Oh, my God. That's the dumbest thing in the world. The coach shouldn't have been saying, listen, at that point, the coach should not have been saying shit that matters anyway. It should all have been about, hey, we won, celebrate, don't get into any trouble. Which I heard him say, by the way, lay low, stay off of this, don't do that.
He clearly said stay off social media, and the guy's doing a Facebook Live.
Yeah, but come on. I mean,
no.
Mike Tomlin is not his father. Okay? And
no, he's not, but he's his boss. And you your boss.
No, incorrect. Hold on. What you mean his boss?
Of course he's his boss.
No.
And if your boss tells you can't use the cell phone in the office, you can't use the cell phone in the office.
No. Listen.
I mean, how would you feel, Jay, if you're leading? Let's go into an office environment. Wait, no,
coaches,
listen. How would
who
you
gets
feel
paid more,
if you're
the
leading
coaches or star players?
Players, doesn't matter.
I've never known a boss to make less money than me.
The chain of command, doesn't matter. Chain of command.
The coach is there to put you in the right place to succeed. He is not your boss.
Yes, he is your boss because he has the right.
Incorrect.
He could fire you. All right,
he cannot fire you.
What? Coaches cut players. What are you talking about?
Okay, go ahead and cut Antonio Brown and see what happens to you.
No. The GM gives you 90 players for you to build a roster. You're free to cut and add whoever you want. It's that simple. That's
fine. And ultimately, you recommend someone to get cut, and the GM is going to say, you know what? This one you have Mike Tomlin, I dare you. I will lend you my testicles. You have 2 pairs.
No. You're getting.
Go ahead and do anything you feel to
Jay,
Antonio Brown and see how that works out to you. Listen,
we're getting out of hand because he's not going to cut Antonio Brown. But he is his boss.
No.
He is his boss. And let me put it to you this way.
He's his associate.
If you are leading a conference in your office, whether you're the boss or not, and you're talking, and people are texting and selfieing, you're going to feel like you want to punch them in the face. And that's pretty much, it's disrespectful. And that's what Antonio Brown was doing. So there's no justification to that. But let's get back to football because I'm pissed off with that topic. Fuck Antonio Brown and the way he behaved himself in that
no. Go AB, and I hope he tears TB a new one.
Yeah, no, I mean, nothing against Antonio Brown, the person. I'm talking about his behavior in that specific situation. But, I mean, just how we have that controversy with Antonio Brown, the Steelers beat the Kansas City Chiefs. I think it was clear that Andy Reid needs to move on from Alex Smith. Everything that we thought, everything that I thought, everything that everybody thinks is that Alex Smith is a great guy to get you to the playoffs, but he will never, ever take you to a Super Bowl. He cannot make big plays when the moments count. He cannot stretch the field, and he doesn't scare absolutely no defense. He's not a playmaker. You cannot make it. I mean, there's so much talent in Kansas City. It's not fair that this team is getting dragged behind because Alex Smith is not good enough to take you to the Super Bowl. They gotta get a gunslinger. They gotta get a playmaker there behind center. Obviously, it might be a project, but whatever it is, you got to start thinking on plan B. Alex Smith is not the guy to take you to the promised land. It's been clear for the last couple of years, and it was clear again last weekend.
Dude, don't ask me about offensive lines. Don't ask me about what a guard is supposed to do. Don't ask me about schemes. I watch the 3 main offensive positions and probably the 3 or 4 main defensive positions, and that's how I enjoy my football. That's me. You have a different mind, and that's why you're part of this show, because you bring a perspective that I might never look at. I don't plan to or intend to ever be any sort of coach.
Stop sweetening me up. Give me the bomb. What are you trying to say?
With that being said,
With that being said, here it comes.
Head to head in the positions that matter, I thought that Pittsburgh was head and shoulder above Kansas City. I don't know what this mention is of all this talent that they have, but in the positions that they matter, Pittsburgh is head and shoulders better. Now, with that being said, and I'm sorry if I'm sounding a little bit redundant, Kansas City was able to keep Pittsburgh from scoring not a single touchdown. And that resulted in the emergence of the fourth killer bee, by the way. We already knew about Ben and Brown and Bell, and in this game, it was a showcase from Boswell. 6 field goals, 18 points. Even with that said, the defense did their part. They kept the team from scoring a single touchdown. When it came down to it, Alex Smith, he did not look like a person who choked, man. He came up the field. He completed the passes that he needed to complete. He made the right decisions. One of them was kind of a gimme. I think he got a pass interference that was called in his favor that put him in a position to score. He threw the touchdown that led to the score. He actually completed the 2-point conversion, which got called back because of a holding play, which some consider controversial, Omar. I clearly understand what a holding play is. Yeah, I totally understand what a holding play is. I play defensive line, as you know, and I am clear that if a player is standing to your side, reaching over from one side of your body to the other to try to grab your shoulder pad, that is a hold even if you do it for 1 second. There's nothing to debate there. Now, had he not held, had he be able to bump James Harrison off and not have to hold him, not have to take him down, would it have mattered? Would Alex Smith still been able to complete the pass? We were never going to know. But there is absolutely no controversy there. That was a hold. What I do think is that the ref shouldn't have called that, man. Just let him play. Just let him play and let the play on the football field decide the outcome.
You just mentioned... Yeah, go ahead, finish. I thought you were done. I'm just really eager to talk.
I don't like that the game basically came down to a call. Like, after playing 60 minutes of football, after having watched that for almost 3 hours, if not 3 hours as a football fan, it comes down to one call of many that were missed, of many that were made, one call to decide the whole game.
All right. First of all, let's get something clear. Kansas City is loaded with talent. I know you watch the main positions, but I'm not even talking about offensive line. I'm talking about their defense, their special teams. They're loaded, especially on defense. And you just mentioned the main reason why they're loaded. These guys didn't allow a single touchdown all game. Yeah, Alex Smith did a great job at the end. It wasn't his fault, I agree. But you lost to a team that didn't score a single touchdown, Alex Smith. Do you really think you can beat Tom Brady without scoring a single touchdown?
Didn't Alex Smith score the touchdowns, though? He got his touchdown in.
Yeah, but you're supposed to have a quarterback that's going to take advantage of this situation, not a quarterback that when your defense gets a 3-and-out, you get a 3-and-out. That's not how you win in the playoffs.
I see what you're saying, but his two most notable appearances in the playoffs, and why people seem to think that he's not a playoff quarterback, one of them came down to a pretty well-thrown pass that was dropped in the end zone when he was playing with San Francisco. And now this one where he actually completed the 2-point conversion. He had a chance to win that game when the team was down, understanding all the factors that led to him being down in the first place. But he had a chance.
By the way, that 2-point conversion would have tied the game,
I understand.
Not win the game.
I know.
Okay, let's be clear on that.
If you're listening to me, you understand what I said. They put him in a position to win the game. They didn't win the game for him. Now, with that being said, oh, man, I got to change my catchphrase. I keep saying that. All right, even understanding all of these factors.
You should get a T-shirt.
I'm going to start hashtagging that every time I tweet something. With that being said, anyway, so when it came to it, he made all the right plays. He made the right decisions. If anything, he played better with the pressure of having to do it with time constraints than he did for most of the game. It just didn't break his way, and it didn't break his way in San Francisco. I don't think this has to do with Alex Smith. And mind you, I'm not a fan. You know I'm not a fan of Alex Smith, and I didn't want that team to go forward anyway. But you can blame it on a lot of other things. I don't necessarily think that Alex Smith is who you blame it on. I mean,
I'm gonna imitate a little bit.
Defense was great. What did the offense do? And it wasn't all, on Alex Smith. I don't think of Pittsburgh of being a great defense to begin with, but running game didn't show up. Jeremy Maclin is supposed to be their star receiver. Was he always covered? Did he not catch any balls? They try to, incorporate Tyreek Hill for however much that worked out for him. Not too great. Travis Kelce did a few Travis Kelce things. Also had a few Travis Kelce drops. It was a good game to watch, even with the low scoring.
Yeah, all I'm saying is a quarterback that threw for 15 touchdowns in 16 games. It's not the quarterback that I want when my game's on the line. I mean, this guy, you just mentioned Jeremy Maclin didn't step up. Tyreek Hill is because he doesn't know how to throw to wide receivers. He knows how to throw to Travis Kelce and running backs. I don't like Alex Smith as a quarterback to have in that position. I think he's a great stopgap quarterback, a guy that you can get, to plug in while you get a real quarterback. I don't think he's going to take you to the promised land. I think he'll take you as far as what he got. Regardless of the situation of the game, he did not deliver at the moments and when he had to. So, it's such a thing. As soon as you got that, they got that holding penalty that he was taken to the 12. If it was Drew Brees, if it was Big Ben, if it was A-Rod, if it was Brady, if it was Andrew Luck, you'd be like, okay, they still got a chance. As soon as they got that 10-yard penalty, and it's Alex Smith, is like, they're done. They're done. There's no way Alex Smith is going to get that play.
I agree.
So, that's the thing. That's why I think, I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback, but I mean, just look at what the 4 quarterbacks that are left are doing. Compare that to Alex Smith.
Yeah. Now,
right, let me get to the Steelers. Oh, you still want to defend him? Go ahead.
No, I don't want to defend them. I just want to make one last point on a team that's no longer in contention. This happens way too often. We see this a lot in all sports. Kansas City, even with Alex Smith, is too good to ever get any substantial draft pick that's going to land you a better quarterback than Alex Smith. And that's basically their reality for as long as they have him there. So they're kind of stuck where they are.
In theory, but you could develop one. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was a late first. Remember, they got him with Brett Favre, and Dak Prescott's story. In theory, you're right, but if you do your proper scouting and you give him time to build, you can get it done. But let me get to the Steelers, man, because we're lasting too long on this.
So the Steelers,
Chiefs, and I hate them.
Preview?
Yeah, let's talk about the Steelers, man. The Steelers are playing the New England Patriots.
Right.
This was tough for me. This was tough for me, and since I'm on a roll, I'm on a streak. I was decided with the Packers from the get-go, but this one's tough for me to choose, but I got to pick one. And again, I'm going against the grain. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to beat the New England Patriots. Surprise, surprise. Everybody has Tom Brady. I was one that had Tom Brady, but, man, after looking into it, I mean, Le'Veon Bell is a machine. Le'Veon Bell is amazing, and the way they're using this guy is even more impressive. I do not see anything in the Patriots' defense to be able to stop Le'Veon Bell, unfortunately. And not just that, I don't think they have a good enough pass rush to limit Big Ben in case they do take a lead. So I can see Pittsburgh firing back easily every time Patriots fire at them. Of course, Patriots are at home. That's a huge advantage. But Big Ben is no stranger to the cold weather. Big Ben is no stranger to a tough environment, man. Big Ben is probably the toughest, the hardest nailed quarterback in the NFL right now. I mean, this guy has a mind of a freaking warrior. And the way Le'Veon Bell is playing, because everybody's like, oh, Big Ben and Antonio Brown. Man, Le'Veon Bell is the true star of this team. They're running the ball. They're playing old school football. And on top of that, you got a Big Ben that can make really big plays in big moments. I really like the Steelers winning this game. I think the Patriots, although they have been playing their best ball, they've been favored by a very easy schedule throughout the entire season. When they had a really tough matchup against the Seahawks, which was in Foxborough as well, they looked a lot more human. And I expect that to happen when they see the Steelers. And by the way, the Steelers defense, although they are pretty average, they've been playing really good in the playoffs. Bud Dupree has really woken up, not just because of the Matt Moore hit. The guy is all over the place. Ryan Shazier, to me, is one of the most underrated and best linebackers in the entire NFL. I expect Ryan Shazier to be great in this game. So I really like the Steelers, man. It's like my logic tells me to go with the Steelers based on everything that I analyze. My gut tells me, like, are you really going against Brady, Packy? Are you really crazy? I mean, the way Brady is playing, like, are you sure? But I got to go with it, man. I'm going with the Steelers on this one.
Well, my gut tells me to disagree with you, but nope. The fan in me is picking the Pittsburgh Steelers. I picked them a very long time ago to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl, and I haven't changed my opinion. They just have so many ways to beat you. So the advantage that the Patriots have are that they can basically adapt to situations and find ways to limit your best player. But how do you limit your best player when your best player is your quarterback and is also in your backfield and is also your receiver, and for that matter is also your kicker?
Yeah.
You know, there's too many things for the Patriots to limit. If you somehow manage to shut down Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell's going to kill you. If you stack the box for Le'Veon Bell, they're going to kill you with the passing game. And all they need is just to get a few yards, you know, anywhere within 50 yards is acceptable for Brian Boswell to kick a field goal. I believe that he's totally unfazed and he can kick anything at this point. The Patriots, they are running low. I think they're running on fumes, man. I don't believe that Brady's going to have as bad a game as he had with Houston. Like, if anyone had a chance to beat Tom Brady, it would have been the Houston Texans that day. If Will Fuller catches that ball, that one perfectly thrown ball that only happens once every 7 games for Brock Osweiler, maybe even once a season for Brock Osweiler, maybe we would have been talking about the Texans as a team of destiny, but that was not to be this time around. I think that the Patriots, although they have a lot of ways to get yards on you, and they were fortunate to get the play from Dion Lewis that they got, I don't think that Dion Lewis is going to run you back another touchdown off a kickoff. I don't think that he's going to catch you another touchdown, although he could surprise me. Man, it's just too many things that the Patriots are going to have to contend with on defense. What I'm thinking is, more than anything, is just the Patriots are not going to outscore the Steelers. That's pretty much what I believe. Like, it's not even a matter of the Patriots won't be the Patriots. They'll be the Patriots. They're just not going to outscore the Steelers. That's the way that I'm thinking. That's the way I see it breaking down. By the way, they did play this year. The Patriots beat the Steelers 27-16. I believe, though, that was a game that Big Ben did not play. They played
exactly
with
Landry Jones.
Landry Jones. I almost said Jarvis Landry. Who's Jarvis Landry? It's a different team.
Wide receiver for the Dolphins.
They play with Landry Jones, and when Landry Jones played, Antonio Brown is basically a non-factor. So it's going to be a tough one. I see it going to the Steelers, so I'm with you. You said earlier that we're in the minority. Well, we're both in the minority, man. I think the Steelers take this one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to disrespect Tom Brady. I know I spoke very well of him in our last episode. And
listen,
that's why I
don't think you are, man. I just said earlier, the Patriots are going to be the Patriots. They just have too much to contend with. You know, the same way that I don't feel Tom Brady's going to have 2 bad games in a row where he has 2 interceptions. I also don't feel that the Steelers, you're going to keep him from scoring a single touchdown in a game again. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, I love the momentum the Steelers are bringing in, which is, to me, is very important in the playoffs. I love how the Pittsburgh defense is really stepping up. And I don't want to say that the Steelers are beating Tom Brady. I prefer to say the Steelers offense is beating the Patriots defense. I mean, Colin Cowherd made a very strong point. I'm going to repeat what he said, not verbatim, but I'm going to share with you guys because I think it's very valid. Everybody's like, well, the Patriots have a top-ranked defense. Well, the Patriots played all year Andy Dalton, Landry Jones, Tyrod Taylor, Russell Wilson, and they lost. Colin Kaepernick, Larry Fitzpatrick, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Jared Goff, Joe Flacco, Trevor Siemian, and Bryce Petty. Listen to these, the quarterbacks that they went up against. And on the Steelers side, I mean, it's obviously been there, but I'm seeing it more than ever. Big Ben is good. Big Ben is great. Antonio Brown is good. Le'Veon Bell is great. But all three together, they make like a very unique combination that make all three of them look a lot better than what they already are. I mean, it's such a perfect combination, such a perfect way they complement each other. It's so much easier. I mean, you mentioned the Patriots are experts at shutting down like your best target. It's so much easier to shut down a wide receiver than it is to shut down a running back. But more times than none, when you're talking about shutting down a running back or a running game, you have to bring down a safety. You have to load the box. You have to play closer to the line. You know, there's certain things you got to do. But then when you do that, you have Antonio Brown who can easily take a slant to the house, or Antonio Brown who can stretch the field on a single safety deep. And to make matters worse, you have a Big Ben that's a Hall of Fame quarterback. I mean, he's not just a reliable quarterback. He's not just a good quarterback. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback that can stretch plays. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback that can get the ball downfield, and he's very accurate. You know, so it's like this combination of these three I just see it very hard to stop it. And I can see it going all the way to the Super Bowl. I don't know. It's too perfect. It sounds too good to be true when all three of them are on the field. I am very impressed the way they've developed, and they're playing better than ever at this point. You cannot load the box on Le'Veon Bell, so he's going to take his time getting holes. And you cannot have too deep on Antonio Brown, because then Le'Veon Bell is going to do what he does. And you have Big Ben who does what he does. So I don't want to get redundant on this, but my God. On top of that, no pass rush from the Patriots, no real pass rush with Rob Ninkovich. I don't know. I'm not convinced.
I think you passed redundancy like 7 exits ago. Anyway,
yeah.
Bro, so your point was well made. You're picking the Steelers to win this game. I agree with you.
I'm going with the two underdogs that are playing away. Isn't that crazy? I think I'm playing with fire, but I gotta go with what I gotta go.
So far, everything was looking like a storybook ending where Aaron Rodgers faces Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. At the beginning of this year, that was heavily covered by ESPN, that Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers were 1 and 1A as the two top quarterbacks in the NFL. There's still a chance that this storybook ending plays out, but neither you or I have the Patriots beating the Pittsburgh Steelers, all on the basis of offense versus defense. All right, so before we call it a wrap, just want to talk very, very briefly. There's not a whole bunch to say about the UFC. BJ Penn had a fight this week against Jair Rodriguez. Jair Rodriguez won. He dominated the fight. It wasn't even close, but all the talk is on BJ Penn. It looks like he's going to call it a career. He's going to go down as a great. His record doesn't really reflect that he's a great, though. 16, 11, and 1. It's sad that sometimes a fighter doesn't know when to let go and they just stay in there too long, but he put up absolutely no offense against Jair Rodriguez. Joel Vasquez, one of our friends that constantly contributes in UFC chatter, mentioned that this was probably a fight that hurt Jair Rodriguez more than it helped. It didn't move him up the rankings in any way. He basically beat up I'm not going to call him a wash-up or a has-been. That's disrespectful to what BJ Penn did accomplish, but he hasn't been good or anyone of note for quite a few years now. So it's time to put, the last nail in that coffin. This is the end of BJ Penn. He basically just stood there and got punched in the face for 2 rounds, and miraculously got out of that first round. Basketball, man, we can rant on this for a really, really long time, but we're short on time that we have available for it. So Carmelo Anthony of the New York Knicks, a team that we both follow, met with Phil Jackson, and the results of that were basically being publicized as Carmelo Anthony basically telling Phil, I want to stay with the Knicks. It hasn't come down to, one of them has to go. I think that if anyone does have to go, it's time that we get rid of Phil Jackson. I honestly don't see what the hell he contributes to the team. It seems like he's getting in the way more than he's actually helping. The Knicks are a hot mess. There's talk about Carmelo Anthony possibly waiving his trade clause. I don't see a scenario where he gets traded. If anything, talk about him possibly going to Los Angeles, whether it be to the Clippers for Blake Griffin or to the Lakers in some kind of a huge blockbuster deal that involves the Cleveland Cavaliers as well. Those seem to be the only likely scenarios. I don't think that would happen. What I would love to see, though, is for the Knicks to just kind of press the reset button, go young, trade Carmelo Anthony for whatever expiring contracts you can get, and a whole bunch of like young draft picks to the Boston Celtics. Now, that would make the Boston Celtics a very, very tough out when it comes to the playoffs with their current team, the rise of Isaiah Thomas and Al Horford, a good, gritty defensive team, and add to that a scorer in Carmelo Anthony. That'd be a very tough team to contend with. And I did mention L.A., however, briefly, and just want to say that Chris Paul has I believe it's a thumb injury. It's going to keep him out for the next 6 to 8 weeks. I've pretty much known that the Clippers were going to fall off at some point. I think that's it. I believe Blake Griffin is still out. Now they have Chris Paul out. If you have DeAndre Jordan in fantasy, look for him to ball out. Crazy amount of rebounds and putbacks and, more points than you're used to getting from him, but that's pretty much the extent of what that's going to do. DeAndre Jordan is not a star of a team. That team relies too much on their starting lineup, and that's pretty much all she wrote. Looking to the offseason to see what's going to happen with the LA Clippers, because something's got to give. They cannot afford to bring back all these players. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you pretty much summed it up. I mean, I'm not going to get into Carmelo again. I think I had a pretty decent rant in last episode. Next time we talk about Knicks, I'm going to go to Phil Jackson rant. We should bring in our good friend, Ilich Ramirez. I'll give him a shout-out all the way from Spain. Man, did he put up some interesting topics about the Knicks. I felt like I got punched in the mouth, and I deserved it. So, I mean, that was a hell of arguments that he put up. I hope he can make it to one of our shows so we can
he
both
punched you in the mouth and you liked it.
I didn't like it. It's like
he punched you in the mouth and you asked for more. You're like, yes, give me another one. You're right.
Right? It's exactly. It's like, God damn it, I deserve it.
I almost wish that this was the year that Derek Fisher was coaching when I wasn't a fan of the Knicks. Man, I came back just in time to see this dumpster fire. It feels so bad. I feel like that dude in Da Vinci Code who would whip himself for like sitting. I'm sitting just for being a fan of the Knicks. Guys, so you wanted to introduce a new a new theme here, a new topic, and it's the shout-outs. Who do you want to shout out this week, Patty?
Yeah, I got some shout-outs to our friends, man. I'm gonna give out a new shout-out section, guys. Just so you know, first let me start off with Cousin Juan. A huge shout out to him. I know we mentioned him before in the podcast as a shout out you have, but a shout out to him and his podcast, The Report Card. Look it up. It's a great hip hop music podcast. Shout out to Joel Reyes, the chef, his restaurant Food Inc., one of the best food in Dominican Republic. You guys got to check it out if you're in the country. Awesome food. Shout out to Sahur, who told me, Sahur is one of our football players in the Crows, told me he's a faithful listener of the Unofficial Commentators podcast. Huge shout out to him. Shout out to Carlos Ravello, who's also been listening lately. He also has some good inputs on our episodes. So, I already gave a shout out to Ilich Ramirez. So I think that pretty much covers my shout. Oh, shout out to Christian. Shout out to Christian Moreno, my also co-worker in another podcast that he's the producer in it. He invites me in it. It's a great project so far. He's given us a lot of support, helping us with advertising this podcast as well. So shout out to him. Shout out to Rafa Villalona, who's also one of the guys in that podcast as well.
I also want to second that shout out to Christian. He was graceful enough to invite me to his Ligas Rivales fantasy football. It was a league that I didn't understand the whole year, but I'm so good at fantasy that I still made the playoffs even without understanding how the hell that should work. the fab and playing team defenses. That was kind of an archaic way for me to play fantasy football. But hey, man, it was fun to be there. I totally embraced the whole Liga de Rivales thing. I think I got a few rivals out of it. No animosity towards anyone. It was just a good time. My shout outs are for my cousin Stephanie. She's one of my younger cousins, and her birthday was on the 16th, on Martin Luther King Day. Shout out to her. Cousin Juan's mom's birthday is tomorrow. Teclari, happy birthday. Tomorrow on the 19th. That might be the day that we actually air the show, but we record the day before. So a couple of happy birthdays there. You took a few of my shout outs, people that regularly contribute to the show, whether it be on the chat rooms or in person. Guys, use our social media outlets. We will shout you out if you contribute to the show. So again, that's Unofficial Commentators on Instagram, Unofficial Commentators page on Facebook, at UC_podcast on Twitter. You can watch this episode on YouTube on Unofficial Commentators. You can also listen to the podcast on Podomatic, Unofficial Commentators as well, and we're looking to expand. Also, look for us to be releasing shorter episodes. We're going to do a best of, where we'll release the full edited, played around version of our episodes like we always do, and also shorter ones, because everyone doesn't have all the time in the world to tune into some of these episodes. And like I said before, watching a video on YouTube takes up the whole functionality of your phone, so you may not be able to watch YouTube and do other things. So man, Payola is crazy. I feel like we're doing like a Dembow song right now. Follow us everywhere that you can follow us, and that's pretty much everything I have to say. Thank you everyone for tuning in once again to the Unofficial Commentators. Good luck this week, and see you next week.